Well, welcome to the Pastors Podcast. This is Pastor Scott, and with me today are Steph and Dennis Kilama joining us from Kampala, Uganda. Actually, are you in Kampala right now, Dennis?
Yes, I am in Kampala. I'm in Uganda as I speak to you right now. So about 12 hours difference.
That's right. It's 10 o'clock at night here, and it's 8 in the morning there. Is that
yes,
right?
It's 8 a.m. It's 8 morning. And if you see my kids coming, it's because they've just woken up, not that they're going to bed.
Perfect. Well, I think we all know what that's like right now, especially in the midst of of kind of all doing everything from home. So, Dennis, if you're not familiar, I think most of you probably are, but if you're not familiar, Dennis works at Africa Renewal University, which was one of our key partners, our longtime partners. The university there trains Christian leaders both for pastoral ministry and for really all sorts of different vocations in Ugandan society, in African society, really training students all across Africa from a Christian worldview and training up the next generation really of Christian leaders across Africa. And it's been just such an honor such a privilege to get to be partners together over all these years, to get to see the school grow and develop, to see you grow and develop into the role the leadership role that you have at the university now, Dennis. Our friendship, I know, goes back a lot of years, and we were supposed to be with you just this past week. We were going to be out there with you until everything happened, and that's actually one of the things I wanted to check in on you. I think this pandemic has drastically affected everything. It's drastically affected ministry here in our lives, but I also know it's drastically affected you guys and the school as well. So, but before we get into the school, how are you? How's your family doing? How's the church doing there?
Yeah. So my family is doing well. My family is carrying on. We largely have been home, staying home, working home, with the schools closed since March 22nd here in Kampala and all over Uganda. They have not been opened, and I suspect they may not be opened for the rest of this year. So been home with my children. We've spent much more time. Just before the lockdown, the Lord was gracious and he blessed us with a child. And so now she's about 7 or so months. So we are grateful to God that, she came in just before the lockdown, and we've been with her with so many hands to carry, with family staying together. So my family has been well. I've been with my wife, my kids, and we've really carried on, taking it one day at a time.
Yeah. And so the situation in Uganda there, it obviously has some similarities in that sense. I think we're wrestling through school and having a lot more time in our homes as well. But even more significantly there, you guys are dealing with an official legal curfew, right?
Yeah. So churches have been closed, and we have curfew right now. Anytime after 9 o'clock, you are not allowed to walk. There are soldiers, they're called local defense unit, who, if they got you, if you want your way out, chances are you will pay a bribe, or you're actually going to be arrested and taken into a prison. Pastor Scott, about a week or so ago, in one of the prisons where many of these people are taken, COVID came in. And in Uganda, the cases have been very low. But then we have just seen this spike in the past few months. And part of what has really caused the spike has been, people have been thinking, what will kill me? Is it COVID that is going to kill me, or hunger that will kill me? So you actually are looking at choosing one of the two. If I don't go out, I will not have food to eat. If I go out, then most likely I will get COVID. So you are choosing between one of the two. The markets are open, and I'm sure Pastor Scott and Steph, you have seen the markets here. They are real markets. A market where people sell potatoes on the floor, and you have to negotiate. The tomatoes are right on the ground. The fish is on the table. The meat is hanging, and you have to haggle. You have to come close to people, and so Corona does not seem to understand any of this. It's once people began to get back a little bit, it is just began to spike. We had a lockdown that was literally lockdown, and by lockdown I mean you're not allowed to move, you're not allowed to drive, you're not allowed to do the typical day-to-day things. And initially people followed that, but right now I think people got to a point and they were thinking, okay, let me choose what would kill me, either the disease or hunger. And looks like most people are just thinking, let this thing come, let it do what it wants, but I will not allow hunger to take me down. So people are out and just living their lives like they would typically do. Churches are not open. Churches have been closed. Praise God that Cornerstone, West LA, where I've actually been, you have the opportunity to gather together online. We've been grappling with how do you pastor a church without internet? How do you reach out to a congregation now and you want to really engage them that do not have internet? And there's been really little bits of things here and there just to try to see how to support the church. And this could speak for Uganda, but also probably for the rest of the continent. I had to do something to make sure that I can get on this call with faster internet. Otherwise, if it is the typical internet, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. The internet by now could have broken probably 4 or 5 times. But then out of this pandemic lockdown thing, the companies have kind of provided a little bit of packages that could do this a little bit better. But it's not the same across the country, that you cannot hold an entire service on Zoom or online. You could do something, but you can be sure you're going to be reaching probably about 5% of an average congregation in a city. The farther you go up country, up north, the farther you go up east, the less they actually think about that. So there's been, I would say, innovative ways, and God has actually clearly been at work. There's just been ways that the gospel has still been proclaimed. The gospel has been proclaimed in the midst of the pandemic. People have been able to reach out to families. Now the men have been forced to sit down with their wives, which has not been something that previously would happen. And maybe I could even share testimony after testimony, because I also serve as a pastor, of how we observe that there has been spiritual formation. There's been this formation that has just happened because people have been able to just spend time with one another, and in the process they have just been able to rethink. I don't know if I could share the testimony now, but one of those testimonies just coming out of the pandemic, it comes in and there's so much scare. And for us as church, we have been doing, because I'm part of Lugogo Baptist Church, we've been writing Bible study material, in terms of like you could type or send on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a big thing here. And so we're sending Bible study material and a little one-page sermon, and we're encouraging the men in their homes to be able to actually teach this out. So we send it by SMS or we send it by WhatsApp. And this one particular man, he'd been married. He comes from one tribe where you actually pay a lot of bride price. So he's been living with his wife largely because he just thinks, I'm not able to, I'm young, I'm not able to pay the bride price. So he's living with his wife, and then we're sending this material, and his wife is telling him, you are the priest in the home, you are going to lead us. You've never preached, never led the Bible study. And there he is with his family all looking at him. He's been sent the Bible study questions, been sent the 3-point sermon, and now he has to lead. And so for the first time, he stands before his family and he's actually leading them in Bible study. For the first time, he stands before his family and he's preaching to them. Now their relationship grew so much. It grew so much all through because of this whole Bible study. Went through the book of Philippians, went through the book of First Peter, and just studying that. And in the process, his relationship with his wife just kept growing and growing and growing. And so in June, he came to me and he just said, you know what, I'm actually thinking that I need to wed. Now, in Africa, we talk about marriage and wedding. I need to wed my wife. And I'm thinking, okay, why? He just said, I feel this is the right path to do. I've lived with her for years. And he's saying, no, I want to do this actually soonest. So I say, yeah, you know the process. No, we need to talk to the girl's family. They need to give you an invoice for the bride price. And you need to actually be prepared. Now, typically, that's a process that will take you about 12 to 18 months. But he's thinking, I have to now do this. I feel the conviction.
Wow.
Pastor Scott, the long and short is that he decides to, when we explain, and he says, okay, let me go see the family. They give him a typical invoice of what he should take, the cows, the goats, the coat for the father, you know, the gomes. I don't know, gomes is not an English word, but yeah, that cloth that women wear here, that is that way.
Pointy.
Yes. And
Steph's got one.
so they give it. I don't. I think so. I'm not sure, but it's a dress that you have to give your mother-in-law. That yes, that has, and it's long, with the rope, with paraffin, with a lamp. It's some money for the bride price, and he's actually so committed. He says, "I'm actually going to do this." So the 24th of July, he mobilizes his uncles, mobilizes his clan. He's able to mobilize, put together some cows, some goats, and they do this traditional marriage. Now, right now, times are just hard, but we just saw the hand of God on him. The long and short is that this Saturday, he's actually going to get married. And I'm going to actually join them in marriage. So it's just one of those random things, I would say, that God has just been doing even through this crisis, that it has not actually gone to the West.
Yeah.
So
praise God.
Amen.
Yeah, I don't know if this is an encouragement to you, but as you were speaking and you were talking at first about, it's a little bit frustrating. How do you minister to and how do you shepherd your church when you don't have quality internet, right? And, it's funny because I remember being there, 4 or 5 years ago, and one of our projects was working with you guys, right, to improve and strengthen the internet for the campus. And while I was there, even though we felt so disabled because all we do is use technology. And so we go there and we're forced to slow down. We're forced to actually have relationship and connect and take the time to walk across the campus to meet with somebody because you can't just text or send a quick email. And it kind of got us, I feel like God used that to kind of like slow us down and reorient us back to people over just kind of producing and being productive through the internet. But what I loved about ARU specifically and the students I met and the staff I met was I was amazed at how without internet back 4 or 5 years ago, you were incredible mobilizers for the Lord. Are you kidding me? I don't know how students sometimes would say, we're going to have a meeting tonight after the prayer group and we want to meet about how we can evangelize to some of like our local tribes or out in the villages. And without an email, without some sort of marketing scheme or some, internet connection or a Zoom call, there was like 100 students there. I'm like, how did they get all these people here with like 30 minutes notice? And so I guess I share that because, God has worked through, as we know, generations and generations without internet. And I was a witness to how committed and faithful the students were and the staff were to just be bold in the use of their voice and their life to tell people about Jesus. Where here, we sometimes can hide behind the technology and say, well, we go to church on Sunday, we get to watch our pastors kind of deliver us on Sunday and we're stuck at home and, I just wish I could go and tell somebody about Jesus, but I can't, I'm stuck here and I only have the internet, and so sometimes we make these excuses that we can't connect and share the gospel. But I witnessed that live with the students and staff at ARU. And so to just not be discouraged right now in this season, that even though you have better internet now, because I am talking to you on Zoom and it's going well, that you don't need it to tell people about Jesus. You guys have just an incredible heart and boldness in your faith. And it was an encouragement to me back then to just speak up, and that I don't need all these tools to be able to, spread the gospel. So you're doing, I'm sure you guys are doing great.
And maybe in the retrospect of that, because the time that you actually came over, one of our biggest struggles was internet. And for us it seemed normal. It seemed normal until you said there's actually internet that could be faster. We were okay, because you could send an email and it arrives. An attachment sometimes it will take a little bit longer. It was normal until we began to think. So actually Cornerstone West LA was the church that really helped us do transition to what we are using now. We had another company that we're using, and then they were giving us a certain bandwidth that wasn't as effective. So another company actually came in, and since then we've been able to, we actually began our digital migration. You may not know this, Pastor Scott, but we began part of our digital migration back then, because we did something that is called Moodle, and I'm not an IT person, so I may not really give the detail of what that looks like. But we began this because we got faster internet and got a bigger server, certain space and certain RAM and all that. We were able to begin then in little, it was really baby steps. I think God was preparing us for us, even for now. We got onto a platform that is called Moodle. Moodle is an online something that is provided by developers, that you are able to post notes, you are able to grade students, you are able to we don't teach on video yet, and audio yet on it, but we kind of use it to teach. And we have actually, for the last maybe 4 or 5 years, we were using it at a very, very low scale. Now, if you're on campus, it does not need internet. It's on the network. If you're out of campus, you actually need the internet. But for us as a university to be able to host it on campus, we need a certain amount of internet. So in little ways, the Lord was at work, one step at a time, when we actually got that gift to kind of help us begin transitioning. So right now, as we speak, we've been able to actually conduct our Bachelor of Theology class, our Master of Theology class online. And this has been kind of a pilot class that we've done it 100% online, both the Bachelor of Theology and the Master of Theology. And this was something that was probably a little tiny seed that began back then when Jonah and Bruce made that request, and they were dreaming. By then we just thought, no, Jonah, you should not be thinking that way. We should be thinking about different things. But I think God in his own wisdom had kind of pointed that to them. So right now we have it. We have been forced to it has become I don't know what word to use. It has become the major platform for us to actually learn. It has become I would say, in terms of teaching, it has become our savior. That without it, we would never be able to teach these students. So in light of that, so on one hand, Steph, it was slow internet, but what that did is that you actually, in a way challenged us. And we thank you so much for the support that you offered us, that it actually began to prepare us for this. I don't think we would have been as ready as we are. If you look across Uganda now, many universities are beginning to actually grapple. This thing called online has not been our thing. Now it has become the thing that we actually need it. And we began to get prepared in little ways this way. What this does is that now a person like Pastor Scott can actually teach a class here without necessarily coming over. We were trying it out both for our students and our staff. It still is a challenge, mainly for Zoom and what. For one of my classes right now, I could tell you there are students who are in a refugee camp in Adjumani. Adjumani is up north. If you draw the map of Uganda, they're in a refugee camp. They just can't access. For internet, they have to drive. One has to drive to the district, which is about 32 kilometers, for them to send an email of an assignment. And so we are not yet there. though we are heading there. One student had to relocate from where they were to just be able to even do this online, because internet is not something that you find everywhere. Sometimes you have to look for it.
Yeah. And so are you, I mean, as you come into the fall semester, are you allowed to have any, like, do you have any students on campus?
No. We are not allowed. It's actually the president who has said so. The police has been on the campus. We had a few students come over just to check, and the police was aware, so they came over. They sent their investigative department, and we took them around. We told them we are not teaching, so that is not, you don't even think about it. And it's a bit different. I think in America you may be able to negotiate, but with us here you don't negotiate. You sometimes, if you are caught, they'll be really hard on you. So you are safer not even giving the alternative. The online one, we had the Council for Higher Education come over, and because they were very impressed by our platform, they've given us approval to teach for the next 12 months online. So we have the permission, but we know our students and their capability. There will be several of them who will fall through the cracks. So we're seeing how do we reach out to them. So yeah, no classes online on the campus.
This actually, it made me think of two things. One, we were supposed to be there last week. If the church body doesn't know, we had a team planned and we were headed to Uganda this summer in late August. And we had a few projects we were going to be working with alongside of you. One of them working with your campus engineer, Stanley. He was, he had wanted some training on AutoCAD and some mechanical skills, and training all of the facilities and maintenance workers on some just kind of construction skills work. And then when our trip got canceled, I kept just being so bummed about it. And there's all these resources here that our kids have been connecting to. So people send us these website links to, how can you go visit this museum online? Or how do you go to the zoo online? And all of a sudden it hit me, and I was like, why can't we still go visit ARU online, and I remember thinking at first there might be an issue with internet, but it has gotten better. And so let's just try it. And so I love that even just today is a small kind of version of that we get to be in your home with you and virtually visit you. And I would love to just be innovative and think of other ways that we can continue to, if it is getting Pastor Scott to teach a class or somebody that was supposed to come on the team, figuring out a way that we can still, come alongside ARU and show support maybe in innovative ways that we had never thought of. And so it's really, I think God is using this to really kind of massage some of these creative skills of figuring out how we can connect with our brothers and sisters through technology, even if we couldn't be there physically in person. So I'm really excited that we maybe can explore that. And I know, so for our church body, their Moodle is like our Google Classroom. So we have a thing here called Google Classroom, and it's similar to your Moodle platform. Thinking about the students not being on campus, I did have a question. I remember that ARU has been a refuge for many refugees fleeing different conflicts in neighboring countries. What has happened to those students?
Yeah, thank you. The pandemic came in so abruptly. We have students currently from DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, which has about 19 rebel groups, militia, that were taking over. And by the time they were, were closing for COVID, there was Ebola in Congo. And so COVID is entering in, Ebola has been in there. We have several students who are coming from South Sudan up north. We have probably a third or close to a third of our student population is actually coming right through from South Sudan. We've had a few students who came through from Burundi. Burundi has been quite unstable the past few months. And because it was a lockdown such that it was announced at about 8 p.m. and it was effective midnight. And they said universities have to shut down And yeah, because people here a bit stubborn sometimes. When you give them a bit more time, they'll go visit their uncles, go, do. So they really gave about maybe 4 or 5 hours, and they said, after this time, you're not allowed. So that, and yet they were saying universities needed to be closed. So we got grace, and we were able to the next day move. I've had to walk a few times. We had to actually clear the students out of the campus and let them live in the community. It's been really, really, really hard for our students. It's really hard, mainly for those that are coming from the other countries, but those that are refugees, because the borders have been shut down, but yet they do not actually have family or even support for themselves here. It got so bad that the university had to actually provide food for them, because for us here, it was a question of what is going to kill you, what is the less evil? Is it food? Is it corona? And we've had to actually provide for them food all through this. I mean, they cook for themselves, and they live by themselves. Now, slowly, the borders are beginning to be opened, and we have been able to ask a few of others to actually go back by themselves. But all through the past, we're talking of 6 or so months, they've had to stay within Uganda. They've had to just remain in here. No family.
Without anywhere to stay.
They've had to just move out of the university campus, and they've just found rooms all over. And many of them have had to really negotiate with the owners of the homes. Some of them have, the owners of the houses, the landlords, have given them grace period, and they've said, you can live here, but before you leave to go back, you must pay. So right now, the time for them to go has come, but they are not able to pay, so they cannot leave the place. They have to stay longer. So they kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. And as a university, we are not able to pay for their stay. We were able to mobilize through our parent organization, for us to organize some relief food. We're able to give them posho, give them beans, and give them some salt, rice, and cooking oil for them to, without charcoal or firewood, that they could actually sort out by themselves and cook. So that's the least that we could do, but they actually had no food, and some of them are now just stuck. And by stuck, I mean you're stuck. You're not doing anything in Uganda, yet you cannot actually go to where you would call home. I know a few of them have actually been doing farming with the community, doing odd jobs just to find ways to tie the loose ends, make chapatis, or go dig in a field somewhere as a way to get just enough money to carry you through the day. So yeah, it's been, for those, it's been hard.
Yeah. What? Man, I can't even imagine like a student body that, like an entire student body that gets 24 hours notice to, or 4 hours notice, right? 4 hours notice to move out of the dorms, and then they close the borders, and everyone is just kind of like fending for themselves. I mean, I'm thankful for the Lord in their lives and the ways that He gives hope, but I can't even imagine what that, even just what that, the impact that has had on the community, the school, kind of just everybody seeing this and doing what you can to help out along. I can't imagine for the students. Like, what about your faculty and staff? Like, how has this impacted them when all of a sudden all the students are gone and there aren't any classes to teach for the foreseeable future, aside from these few that you are able to do online? How's your staff doing?
Yeah, the staff has really held together and tried to even pull through. Our biggest source of revenue as a university has been students. So when students leave, we just are not able to uphold together. We've always kind of foreseen a situation where we'll need emergency funds or something like that. But then when the pandemic came, we thought, okay, 3 months, and we were ready for 3 months. So we sustained our staff for 3 months. But thereafter, we have not been able to in any way actually offer them of any support. So from June, July, August inclusive, we've not been able to pay any of our staff, and yet they actually continue to work. We've had a lot of facilities improvements that we had funds that were designated. In fact, some of it was the sports field. Probably I'll show you some pictures of works that has been ongoing right now. So we have staff that are actually working, but for the past 3 months, we've not been able to support them in any way. How long is this going to go on? We just do not know. So it's been very hard on the staff and their families. More so, some of them have actually called and mentioned to me personally the struggles that their families are going through holding together. And I must tell you that, Pastor Scott, it's really, really hard. It's been hard, and it's taking it one day at a time. We have a farm, and we've kind of used our farm. In our farm, we grow bananas and we've grown maize. We have been mainly for the staff that live around the university. We have been able to use that as a platform to provide at least bananas to them occasionally. So once a month they can actually pick, and maize meal, posho, we call it posho, grinded. It's a staple food here, to provide for them and their families in that regard. But then they've kind of had to pull through. We just are not sure what will happen when, but for now it's taking it one day at a time. And we asking for some to actually consider finding something that could keep them going, because we are not able to provide anything for them, or even for their families, anything that is substantive. But yet, amidst that, while we've not been able to do that, the staff have actually continued to pray together. So we use more WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a little bit, it takes little data. So we've been able to organize prayer meetings. The bigger ones that we do once in a while are on Google Meet. But then we have a WhatsApp group that we actually use just to spur one another and to encourage one another. So there's been actually work ongoing. Surprisingly, we have been in the process of applying for a charter, and the charter is kind of the highest accreditation recognition that you get as an institution. There's a document that we filled that has, it's a form that you fill that is 216 pages. And we've been able to actually piece this together. Yes, you can imagine the people who give you this document, I think they read through. I will assume they read. I'm not very sure. But there is so much detail that they ask of: number of chairs you have, tables you have, computers you have. They ask for so much detail before they give you this big final accreditation. So it's called a charter document. If we got that as a university, it's going to really propel us to actually influence our society much more. Send our students to work for the government, send our students into the public universities. It's going to draw in more students. We will be able to get grants both locally and probably across. We will be able to even begin doing more programs, either legal or nursing. So it's a document we began to work on before the lockdown, and the staff have actually been able to piece this together. We had the government education body come and visit us, and they were able to actually see us and give us an assessment. So there's a report that we've been working on. So that has been ongoing. There's also been development works that have been ongoing. I'm not sure if you can allow me share my screen. I would have probably shared a few photos with you. Let me see, I think it's coming. But through the lockdown, we were able to, I don't know, are you able to see this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
beautiful.
this is our gate. This is our gate.
Wow.
We got a part of because we've been really trying to find funds for the charter, and about December, there's a group that just gave us very specific designated funds towards preparing ourselves for the charter. And one of those things that we realized was our image as an institution was, in terms of facility, was not as good. So we decided to kind of give a facelift. And what is before us is the gate that we actually put up. And this work began just about the lockdown. Now we're stuck between having funds for ensuring that we survive as a university or for the purpose for which it was designated. So these are funds that were designated, and we are very particular on that. The lockdown provided an opportunity in terms of time, but resources as well were available. These funds came last year somewhere towards October, November. So we actually were able to do the gate, and that kind of gives us a good image. We also began work on, these are funds that came through from Cornerstone, and we also added up and got a little bit more. We've had a struggle for our sports field, and right now as we speak, we have been able to actually begin the works. These works took so long. They took so long because we were seeking for permission from the government, and I can tell you here that it's a long process. It's a long process. There's probably a little bit more that I would have wanted to say, but I would actually leave out. But it's been very, very hard. It's tested our faith in terms of how we work with the local authorities. There's a way they expect us to work, and our faith will tell us that is not the path for us to actually work with. So it's taken us forever. And right now we have been able to get up to a certain level of clearance for us to begin the works on this sports field. So there's work that is ongoing for us to see that this field goes on. Cornerstone West LA was the first church to give us towards, to support us towards this project. So we went to the district and we tried to seek for the permission. They needed so much, and what they needed in terms of saying a field and stadium was not what we were initially thinking. And so we've gone back and forth. And in the process, another church actually has been able to just top up on this to help us kind of begin now meeting some of those standards. This is the gate. I thought there were a few more pictures for the field, but I'll be showing them. This is the gate on the other side, the clinic. If you remember, the clinic?
Yeah, by the medical clinic.
Yeah.
Wow,
yes.
Look at it.
Yeah. This
gorgeous.
clinic has been a big platform for us to fearlessly influence our society. Now, Bulova, where we are, is a community that is predominantly traditional. Now, here in Africa, when you visit a home and you find a little grass thatched or a little house that has been separated, chances are that it is a shrine. Where they actually do these divinations, where they do chicken sacrifices and all this. And in Bulova, there are so many people actually practice witchcraft. And I mean, I could tell you of our neighbors across that literally do witchcraft. Next to the sports field, our neighbor right there cut a chicken, removed the head and left it there as a way of just, land things again. So for us, the witchcraft is such that you see it every day and you actually pray against it every day. I mean, the powers of darkness are such that they are evident. This medical center and this gate have been a big point of reaching the community. We put this gate there to give them opportunity to actually walk through. So it's not the other gate, it's on this other side of the campus, and people are able to access this medical center. In fact, one of the things, Pastor Scott, we had planned with Stephanie was seeing if there are a few medical people who could come over and do some sort of medical camp of sorts, of either pharmacy or I don't know the technical terms for doctors, but a doctor who just injects people and gives them medicine, then seeing if there's somebody who checks eyes or someone who checks teeth. We'd kind of prepared maybe a team of about maybe 3 or 4 or 5 from Cornerstone, West LA, and also our staff here to actually reach out. For us, this is a point of outreach. For us, this is a point of us fearlessly influencing this community that has been sold out to witchcraft, and providing them, a platform to be able to get medicine. So when they come in here, when they come to this center, we don't charge them for consultancy fee. No, the consultation, because the staff from the university, they don't pay, and I don't know what you call it in America, but they don't pay this money for seeing a doctor, for a doctor to tell you are sick of malaria, you're sick of typhoid, you are sick of tuberculosis. They don't pay. They only pay for the drugs. So the consultation fee is zero. And this has actually brought them in. And this medical center, this gate has been, for us, a point of outreach to serve our community. We believe that the team from Cornerstone West LA will come. It may not be this year, it may not be soon, but I am confident that the Lord, who in a way linked us up, will do this in his perfect timing. And one of those points of outreach has been the medical center. And I know at Cornerstone West LA, there are people that are medical, and I would really kind of want to reach out to them and just see how we can actually work together. For us, this has been a platform to evangelize. It's been a platform for us to share our faith, but also as Christians, demonstrate how we could engage. We've been able to actually do this as well. We put tarmac on part of our campus, and again, this has happened in the lockdown. This has happened in the lockdown. In the lockdown, prices kind of went lower. Initially, we had planned to just walk around the gate area, but we actually stretched it much further. This helps us to meet. This is our campus, Scott. It's not a campus in America or in California somewhere. This is actually in Uganda here. So it's work that we have. It's work that we have been doing just to see to it that we progress. So God has actually been faithful. God has been faithful to us, and staff are actually pulling through. We are pulling through to see, our story is such that we came from one tiny building, and Pastor Scott, you remember our time in Gara. Yeah, I don't have the picture here, but probably I could know. Yeah, but it's one tiny building, and every time we have been scared and thought, what is going to happen? Are we going to actually pull through? God has actually showed up, and as a campus, we've just kept growing. This is our dining hall, which if I didn't prepare the slide so well, but if I showed you the before and the after, you definitely have preached in this chapel, Pastor Scott.
Definitely.
Steph, you have probably seen through, but this is actually in Bulova. This is not in California. Yeah, before this, if I showed you the pictures and just contrasted the before and the now, it's different. For us, it's a testimony of the faithfulness of God. We are going through currently a very, very difficult time for our staff, and just holding it together. But yet, because we believe and affirm the vision that God has given us. God has called us as a university to equip Christian leaders that will transform our society. And for me, whatever it is going to take to see to it that leaders are generated to transform Africa, that I am actually willing to step out and do. And so we are actually doing this, training students from 8-9 different countries from Africa. With our facility improving and becoming better, we are actually able to reach out to many more. With the charter coming, we are able to actually impact many more in our society. So we actually praise God for that. The other thing in terms of, and I probably have answered your question and gone a bit more, but the other thing that we have been able to do over this period has been just seeing how to reach out. Cornerstone West LA is supporting 2 students for their postgraduate class. One was actually our alumni, but just has a heart for teaching. He came through here, again, from a background that was really, if I would use the word, hyper prosperity Pentecostal, but yet really loved the gospel so much, in a way over the time that he came in here. And he did a diploma with us here, and then we saw his heart for going out, mainly to the villages. Was part of a little mission team, we call them mission teams here, that goes to the rural. And they would preach the gospel under very difficult circumstances. Came back, did his bachelor's here with us, and went out to actually work with one of our friends and partners. But his heart has been out to teach, and we intended to use the scholarship that we got from Cornerstone, West LA, for the training to empower a teacher, but also a church planter. So our prayer and hope is that right now he's actually on the verge of finishing his MA. He's performed exceptionally well, and I mean exceptionally well. I'm not just flattering him, but I could probably just show you his grades or his assignments, the quality of the work that he's been able to do. He's done really, really well, and we're kind of in the works to see how eventually now he could actually join us on staff to kind of beef us up in a way now to train the bachelor's level classes, the diploma classes, and also now the regional classes that we are intending to do. So that has been one of the people that has been trained. The second one is actually a church planter. Okay, so he's worked with a Christian organization, but just felt called to go and plant a church in an area that is in between. It is sandwiched. Now I've learned a little bit of what a sandwich is. I ate many of them when I was in California. You people eat a lot of bread without soup. So sandwich. So he's in a place that is sandwiched between the two largest Muslim areas. The largest Muslim division in Kampala is somewhere up north. It's called Kawempe. And then one tribe that is literally 99% Muslim. I'm talking of the Nubi. You can actually Google this, the Nubi. It is predominantly Muslim. And now in between, there's a little space that has largely traditional people, Buganda, people who are into just witchcraft, with lots of altars. And I mean literal altars where they do traditional clans, do worship and do what. So they rejected Islam. And so he's actually gone into that community and he's planting a church in this particular community. He went out in November, but he'd kind of been preparing for this and has actually been able to plant the church, began the church in there. And we felt with our MA program, when he shared this vision, he was actually ripe for that. And so he's actually in this community. I've kept touch with him. I've kept really in touch with him because again, I do serve as a pastor as well. Just seeing how to support him in that regard, of just going out to even plant this church. His vision is just to see how to reach out to these particular areas. So he's doing ministry that in a way would be considered very sensitive because the Islam population in Uganda is actually growing. And here I'm talking about growing exponentially. The Muslims, when someone dies, they bury the same day. They are not like the Christians who take about a week and you have to feed the people. All those are costs. You have to do all these. The Muslims are very particular on charity. Every week, every Friday, they give zakat and they give it to the streets. They give, to the people on the street. So in a way, they've actually drawn in more people. They've set up schools where their tuition is much cheaper. And so they've actually drawn in mainly high schools, drawn in many more people. And we felt like it is a time for us, mainly as a church, to begin thinking, how do we actually strategically reach out to this category of people? So this guy is just given himself, and he's in little ways. And in fact, I was chatting with him when I got to know that I'm going to be on this call. It's amazing when you hear his testimony of what has been happening in the community where he is, the lockdown, because it was a little church. I would say almost no church, because there were very few when the lockdown beginning a church. And Pastor Scott, you probably know what planting a church would mean. But there were very few when they began, and the lockdown for him was a platform to actually reach out. Right now, he has about 3 little groups, home groups that are meeting, because they're a little bit far from Kampala, so you can meet groups. But he's now set up probably a core team that is meeting, that is growing with him. he's considering actually kind of settling, moving the church from, because schools are not meeting when churches are open, he's actually considering moving the church into a tent. And so he's kind of thinking in that regard. And for me, it has been exciting to just see how that does happen. We had him and we just said, no, this is the right guy to do. So through the support of, again, Cornerstone West LA, we've been able to prepare one who's going to teach. And that will help us because as a university, we've really been strained in terms of teachers and what. And so we've been able to train one who is currently doing his master's, and the goal is to reinforce our teaching. But secondly, we've been able to train one whose heart has been sold out to evangelism, very particularly to this community that is Muslim. So thank you, and thank you so much, Cornerstone West LA, for the vision, for the heart, for again being mission-minded, for being a church that is outward looking. Many of the congregants at Cornerstone West LA may have never been anywhere close to the equator, but your effect is felt, your impact is so alive here. And for me, who's here and has been to actually Cornerstone West LA, I know it, I see it, and I feel it. So thank you, thank you very much.
It makes me think that as you described what's going on there, as you described the reality for students right now, as you described the reality for your staff and your faculty, it did bring the reality to me that I think in a lot of ways, there's a lot of people in our church family in crisis and trying to, figure out what to do. And a significant amount of it, everyone's experiencing inconvenience, but there are some people in crisis. But in your community there, it's a much larger wave. The impact is so significant that it leaves everyone in crisis. I mean, that's what it sounds like, right? It leaves everyone in crisis. Joining together, taking it a day at a time, figuring out the way through, but trusting the Lord in the midst of that. And I think it's both incredibly perspective giving for us, but also it reminds us of why we have these partnerships, of what this friendship and relationship means. And we're going to be praying about and talking about what we can do to continue to walk with you through that. I'm also struck, even as you showed us everything, like it's number one, it's beautiful and it's amazing. It's fascinating. We've actually had kind of a similar opportunity to do some construction during this time. But what stands out to me actually about it is the integrity of the work being done with those designated funds, right? Like those were gifts that were given for a reason, for a purpose, and you could very easily could have been like, you know what, we've got other needs right now, but the integrity, which I know is hard fought for there among, and I know particularly for you as leaders, and I know it's something that you take a great deal of pride in and is really important to you. And I want to affirm that, and also I think affirm it makes me all the more, I just think it's all the more important that we continue to come alongside one another, and not just in the exciting opportunities in the projects, but also in the midst of crisis. And so we're both going to be praying about and talking with our church about how we can continue to do that. And just even in little ways, I also know that we can't solve, I mean, we don't have the power to solve the problems for your students, to employ your staff, but I do want you to know, both in prayer, in heart, and tangibly, that we want you to know that we're in this together, and that we love you and are continuing to pray for everything going on there with you. So I want to ask you specifically, as we close, I want to ask you specifically how we can be praying for you. But before I do, anything else from you, Steph?
No, I think you summed it up well. I definitely had thoughts, but you kind of covered them all. Yeah,
Sorry.
you know, I think it's okay. I think the one thing you were saying toward the end about yep, it's gone. So if it comes back to me, I'll share again.
Awesome.
And yeah.
No. So Dennis, how, like, I think that with everything you've shared, I think there are things we can pick out and be praying for. We can obviously be praying for your students. We can obviously be praying for your staff. But I also think that with the distance, I'm not sure we know how best to pray for your staff and how best to pray for your students. Thankfully, the Lord does, and His Spirit intercedes for us. But how would you encourage us to be praying for your staff and your students? What maybe specifically would you just ask us to be praying for?
One, as we pray for our students and the staff, in the midst of this crisis, we live in very uncertain times, and even sometimes saying specifically how we should pray is just hard. And just thinking about it in regards to one, our students, just pray that they do not drop out of their education. Just pray that they do not go, mainly for the ladies, just go and get married, because they've been out of school. Just pray very specifically for them not to drop out of school, but to be able to actually continue. Pray for our students as well that are leading churches and congregations. Most of the churches that our students lead are somewhat 20, 50, if there are so many people, maybe about 100. And right now they are, most of our alumni and our students are into church planting and church related tasks. And just praying for them in this very confusing time that they will practice leadership that they ought to practice. For the staff, pray very particularly that they don't lose hope, but keep hope alive, mainly for the vision and mission that we have been called into, that they will just keep the hope alive for actually continuing to see how they would be engaged and involved. Right now, there's a temptation to go into business, either making chapatis on the road or laying bricks, or kind of taking on another initiative that could just change the tangent. We're at a point where we kind of felt the staff team was actually coming and getting this much stronger. And this is kind of one that might set us a little bit back. So pray that they will keep hope alive and hold on to the vision that we have been called to, that we've actually signed up to. But just also pray very specifically that we'll be able to actually get funds to, in a way, support our staff through this season. Just very particularly for them to be able to pull through. 3 months of no pay, and we don't see where the fourth even one will be coming from. And we just have to keep telling them, hold on. And they've actually held on this far. So pray for us in that regard. And for the university as a whole, we're in the thick of applying for the charter, and that's why we need to kind of hold everything together. Kind of feels like, without paying staff and all these, sometimes feels like a pack of cards that you really want to hold together, that it doesn't just, we're at that point where we've done so much to get this far. We've done what has been required of us in terms of facilities, in terms of development. We have done quite a bit. Now we are awaiting from the government and from the National Council, and the longer they take, the harder it is for us, and it just becomes a little bit much more complicated. We are really close to it. I'm just thinking of a proverb in my tribe. I almost said it in Acholi, but you will not understand it. But it talks about how you go to the well to fetch water on your head, and you go with the pot, you go to the well, fetch water, and you carry the water on your head, and you've been longing for this water. Then just as you reach your house, you knock yourself and boom, you fall, and the pot breaks. The pot breaks with this water. So pray for us that feeling, it's better said in my tribe, that does not, the pot does not break at the doorway. You get what I'm saying? We've come a long way. We've given this our all, and we should deliver this water to where it is actually intended to be used. And so right now we're carrying the pot, we're just entering, and we should not drop it. And so pray for us for the charter, very specifically, that we will be able to attain, to get it. And that would really help us leaps and bounds. It will help us recruit many more students, because students really are our big source of income, but also kind of students help us accomplish our vision more. As we train them more, if we're able to train 500, that's good. If we can train 1,000, that's better. If we can train 2,000, that is great. So it's not just the numbers for numbers' sake, but for us it is influence that is being spread to every village in Uganda, in Kenya, in Sudan, South Sudan, Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania. That is really our vision. So pray for us in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. I did think of what I wanted to share when, even when you're talking about praying about the leaders that you've been, it's not just an education at ARU. And this is my big thing about your university, is that how holistic your education, the experience you give your students in this servant leadership model of, yes, you're rigorous in the classroom, but your service days on campus, your service days in your community, that, it's culturally seen as beneath you to do farming, right? If you've become at the educational level have been able to go to university, why would you be farming? And yet you've taught your students to work the farm at ARU, and as a means to God has provided you land, right? And so let's learn how to work it. And I wanted to share with you that since the pandemic, there have been a few alumni and staff that I've stayed in touch with that have shared with me that it has been an absolute struggle, right? That they can't go out to markets, and that they have, from the skills that they learned when they were students on campus, that they never thought that they'd be farmers. They had to do it when they were on campus, but I'm not a farmer, I'm a pastor, whatever that is. And that they have taken to, but God, I at least have a plot of land, or my church does, or my neighbor does. And so we've gathered people to plant because we can't go into the markets. And so just that your leadership is just, just so multi-leveled. And it's been neat just to see the testimony directly from the students during the pandemic, that has helped them to survive a little bit, or kind of give a cushion. And that was just really beautiful for me to kind of just be a witness to hear that story or that testimony. But I'm going to cry. I feel like I'm going to cry. I don't know if it's because it's late here, but the other thing I wanted to share was, so hearing everything that you shared about like how hard it is there, I think I kind of know, just because we have close friends there, and then we have, a lot of close friends through the brothers and sisters we've made through our relationships through ARU. And I have received emails and WhatsApp texts asking like, how am I, and how can I be prayed for? How is my family? I think I share that because I want our church body to understand that this is so much deeper than an exchange of funds to like build, a sports facility, or to sponsor a student. For me, it is a genuine relationship with a brother and sister in Christ, so much so that as there's so much suffering there, that they have thought of me to like pray for me. Again, it's just because it's late here. So I thank you guys for your hearts, and just just like the love and the genuine relationship that we have with you guys. So
thank you.
I feel so similarly, and I love Dennis. I've always loved, but I love hearing you talk about the vision and the passion you have for the school, for the work of ARU, and not just for that, but even at the beginning of our conversation, for your love and sacrifice for the sake of the local church, for Lugogo Baptist Church, which I know is just where your heart lies, and it's why I think we feel so like-minded and so closely knit as brothers, and it's truly a privilege, and I look forward to years and years and years of more partnership, of more friendship, Lord willing, whatever the forms that takes. But we're going to be praying for not just the survival of the school, but for its thriving through this, through God seeing it and using it as a unique opportunity to build it and direct it and shape it in ways that he has. The internet just being one example of even all the deeper ways that he has prepared the school even for this moment, and the church for this moment. And that so excites me. I can't wait to rejoice together in what he does through this. And so I want to thank you for that. We are going to endeavor to, as soon as we can, come back out and be with you in person, serve, teach, serve at the medical clinic. I know it's a great medical clinic because my son was treated there, actually. I don't know if you remember this. I think it was a burn. I was trying to remember what it was. I think it was a burn or something. Anyways.
Yeah,
but,
it was tea that burnt him. It was
that's
tea.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
I was just going to say,
really hot tea that burnt. Yeah. That's right.
I was just going to say, one of the things you didn't list, I can't wait to have chapati and tea together.
Absolutely.
Or
Absolutely.
Rolex,
So,
really is my favorite.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And
thank
this
you
is
so much.
this is the clarion call to all of our medical personnel to join us as well with that. So, we can't thank you enough for your time, Dennis. We really appreciate it. It's getting late here. Steph and I got to go to bed.
Thank you so much. I will pass my appreciation to both of you, Pastor Scott and Stephanie. I'm forever grateful. The time you welcomed me in 2018 when I came to visit, I really appreciate that you, at really short notice because of visa complications, you were able to just embrace me. And I have very fond memories. Actually, yesterday I was thinking of the football game between LA Galaxy and the Canadian team that we watched with Steph, and then how I spoke to the church after the service, and the family that did in a way host me. So I am really grateful for the heart that you've had. And again, for me, it is a brother, it is a sister, it's a fellow believer that each time I think about you, I think about you as a brother. I think about you as a sister. And throughout actually this season, we've kind of probably exchanged an email or so that is just beyond the work, but it is people to people. Because people make people. So I am grateful to you too, and the heart that you actually have. So thank you.
Great.
And thank you very much.
Yeah, tell everybody we say hi.
Yeah, send our greetings to David, send our greetings to your wife and your children, and send our greetings to Lugogo Baptist Church and to all of your staff.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.